Martha, 57, scowled her phone, another climate disaster headline, when a stranger plopped a battered field notebook into her latte-free hands. "Found it by gum wall," he said, already backing away. "Birds need you, yeah." Inside, scribbled sightings from Pike Place Market's urban birdwatching fam, Peregrine on Starbucks sign, 7:03 a.m., smug as your ex. Her chest tightened. That notebook smelled like rain and reckless hope. By noon, she'd counted 11 crows, 2 pissed-off women scowled her phone, another climate disaster headline, when a pigeon landed on her windowsill, cocking its head as if to say, "Fam, you're missing show." That ragged city bird, strutting like it owned her fire escape, sparked something. Next morning, she dug out an old field notebook from her teaching days, its pages yellowed but blank. Back then, she'd meant to track her students' progress, now, she'd track progress of a different kind. Seattle's urban birdwatching collective met near Pike Place Market, where gulls stole tourists' crumpets with Olympic-level audacity. Creator hesitated group's edge, gripping her notebook like a life raft. But crew welcomed her with ease of folks who knew eco-grief wasn't a solo sport. They taught her to spot subtle shifts, how crows cached snacks in crosswalk buttons, how Junco's winter plumage arrived earlier each year. Data points, yes, but also tiny rebellions against despair. Her deepest fear had always been becoming irrelevant, a spectator to collapse. But here, ink smudged on her fingers as she logged a fledgling crow's first flight, woman realized relevance wasn't about fixing everything, it was about paying attention. Even when her knees protested a crouch to examine lichen, even when she tripped over a root, Grace had left chat decades ago, notebook grounded her. Each entry was a love letter to a world still fighting. By summer, she knew every barred owl in Discovery Park by its hoot. And when tourists gasped Market's fish-tossing spectacle, Martha just smiled. Real show was above them, swifts diving through skyscrapers, stitching sky back together, one wing beat at a time. Creator scowled her phone, another climate disaster headline, when a flash of movement caught her eye. A sparrow hopped along her rain-slicked windowsill, cocking its head as if to ask why she wasn't outside. That tiny rebel became her push. Next morning, armed with a thrift store field notebook and stubborn curiosity, she wandered into Pike Place Market, where a cluster of folks in mismatched binoculars huddled near gum wall. Urban Bird Brigade, their hand-painted sign declared. Creator hesitated, she hadn't joined a brigade since her 70s roller disco phase, but leader, a silver-haired woman in a moth-print vest, waved her over like they'd been waiting. Turns out, tracking crows who stole pastry scraps wasn't just whimsy, it was science. Each scribble in Martha's notebook, page 1, pigeon, dramatic. Possibly French, fed into migration studies, helping researchers map how city birds adapted to warming temps. Her shaky start, mistaking a leaf for a warbler, nearly face-planting into a rose bush, became part of FAM's lore, served with coffee and sympathy. Weeks in, she noticed patterns, way Juncos avoided construction zones, how robins arrived earlier each spring. Her notes grew precise, her grief less gnawing. One drizzly Thursday, flipping through her now dog-eared notebook, Martha realized it held more than data. Those smudged pages were proof, not of helplessness, but of paying attention. Of showing up. She'd thought resilience meant weathering storms alone, but here it was, a crew of nerdy, kind strangers counting sparrows like each one mattered. Because they did. And so, improbably, did she. Creator scowled her phone, another climate disaster headline, when a pigeon landed on her windowsill with all grace of a drunk in stilettos. She snorted. Even birds were struggling these days. But something about its cocked head, that beady-eyed persistence, made her dig out an old notebook from a junk drawer. Might as well document this feathered weirdo before world burned. Seattle's gray skies couldn't decide between drizzle and existential gloom, but she laced up her sneakers anyway. Pike Place Market's cobblestones were slick underfoot as she sidled up to a cluster of folks clutching binoculars like lifelines. Urban Birdwatching Collective, their patchy flyer promised. Martha expected granola-crunching hippies. Instead, she got a retired plumber tracking crows like they owed him money and a Gen Z barista who called every sparrow, fam, not her scene. Yet when a bald eagle soared over Elliott Bay, its shadow cutting through mist, Martha's pencil moved on its own. First entry, big bastard. Still here. So am I. Weeks in, her notebook fattened with scribbles, Junko's bullying squirrels, a heron's patience canal, way crows memorized human faces, she swore one near her apartment judged her recycling efforts. But doubt crept in. What did tallying birds matter when glaciers calved into sea? One rainy afternoon, she almost tossed her notes into a puddle. Then she spotted a kid pointing her notebook. "Your lady who knows where owls live," they whispered, like she held state secrets. Martha's chest did something embarrassing. She doubled down. Learned to distinguish a Buick's wren's trill from a busker's flute. Charted how urban heat islands shifted nesting patterns. Data became her rebellion, each page a middle finger to despair. Sure, some days she still doom-scrolled. But now she followed it up by stubbornly counting every damn robin on her block, as if bearing witness could stitch fraying world back together. By summer, Martha's notebook had a coffee stain shaped like Australia and entries in 3 colors of ink. She wasn't saving planet. But she was saving herself, one scribbled observation at a time. Creator scowled her phone, another climate disaster headline, when a flash of movement caught her eye. A sparrow, bold as brass, hopped onto her windowsill, cocking its head as if asking why she wasn't outside. That did it. She grabbed her field notebook, its leather cover worn smooth from years of grocery lists and half-finished crosswords, and marched into Seattle's misty dawn. Pike Place Market buzzed with early vendors, but she ignored usual hum. Instead, she zeroed in on a cluster of folks clutching binoculars, their laughter cutting through her fog. Urban Birdwatching Collective, newbies welcome, a hand-painted sign declared. A 20-something in a thrifted flannel waved her over. Skepticism prickled, what could millennials teach her, but notebook in hand, she joined. Days blurred into weeks of tracking crows' gossipy politics and hummingbirds' aerial acrobatics. Martha's notebook filled, sketches of starlings mid-shimmer, notes on how juncos danced in rain. Each entry quieted dread gnawing her chest. Life's worth capturing, she scribbled one evening, surprised by her own ink-stained conviction. Then came Collective's exhibit community center. Woman hesitated before pinning up her pages, smudged, coffee-stained, utterly uncool beside sleek digital displays. But guts won out. She arranged them with a sly grin, adding a post-it, proof old dogs, and birds, learn new tricks. A gasp cut through crowd. A local reporter, there to scoff, hipster hobbyists, froze before Martha's spread. This, she announced, phone-snapping photos, is storytelling. Room erupted. Strangers clustered around, pointing Martha's messy, vibrant proof of resilience. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but something fiercer. Later, as her sparrow friend watched from a nearby branch, Martha chuckled. Who knew a battered notebook and a flock of misfit bird nerds could make a 57-year-old feel like hero of her own damn story? Martha, 57, scowled her phone, another climate disaster headline, when a flash of movement caught her eye. A sparrow, bold as brass, hopped onto her windowsill. Its tiny chest puffed with purpose. She grabbed a half-forgotten notebook, scribbling shaky observations. That evening, she Googled local birding groups. By week's end, she stood under Pike Place Market's neon clock, clutching her field notebook like a lifeline. Around her, strangers turned fan fussed with binoculars and thermoses, swapping stories of rogue hawks nesting in skyscrapers. Their leader, a retired teacher with a penchant for puns, let's flock together, handed she a laminated checklist. Urban birdwatching wasn't just tallying feathers, it was mapping resilience. Months later, Martha's notebook bulged with sketches, a crow cracking walnuts on crosswalk lines, hummingbirds sipping from dripping fire escapes. She led newbies through rain-slicked parks, pointing out nests woven from plastic ribbons. See, she'd say, even trash becomes treasure when you're paying attention. Her grief hadn't vanished, but it had company, a chorus of wings and laughter, data points stacking into something bigger. One Tuesday, she spotted a teen slumped on a bench, glaring her phone. Martha slid beside her, flipping open her notebook to a page titled Local Drama, Two Eagles Squabbling Over a Fish. Kid snorted. By sunset, they'd logged 3 Cooper's hawks and a conspiracy theory about seagulls. Martha's notebook, once a relic of solitary worry, now brimmed with shared wonder. Climate anxiety hadn't left chat, but neither had she. Grab your notebook, wild hopes waiting.